Good afternoon, everybody. Drew and I are really, really excited about our guest that we have on with us today, right, Drew?
It is really just a privilege and an honor to introduce to you everybody here. Some of you may be familiar with our guest, some of you may not be, but you are definitely in for a treat. David and I recently had an opportunity to hang out with a bunch of folks down in Nashville, Tennessee this past November. And one of those folks has become one of my favorite people on the planet.
She's awesome. We love her.
She's absolutely lovely, super smart, so much smarter than David and I combined that we are just thrilled and privileged to introduce to you Liana Ling. Liana, please, my introduction can do no justice to your background, so if you wouldn't mind, please say hello and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, and Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm really looking forward to it. So for those of you who don't know me, here's the quick 411 on me. So I am a Canadian. And before I stop there, I also have a background as a lawyer. I actually practiced full-time as a lawyer for 10 years. So if that doesn't scare you off already, that might...
We're out of here. We're done.
We're done.
I actually became a full-time entrepreneur about 10 years ago. And honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. And I think one day we'll have to just come on and chat about that. But that's basically sort of the boring part of it. The more interesting part of me is I'll give you a couple little interesting facts about me. So I also played concert piano for about 10 years, and I also studied the harp for 8 years. And I am really, really, really into escape rooms. So if any of you are in Toronto, hit me up and we'll do an escape room together. I would love to do that.
That's awesome.
But today, actually, what we actually wanted to talk about was, I think, something that a lot of you may have experienced. So when I first started as an entrepreneur, I was basically sold the sale of goods that, open your doors, people will knock on your door and say, I need this, and you just sell it to them. Well, I pretty much figured out on the second day that's not how it works, right? So what I ended up doing probably for at least the first 2 years is I actually spent thousands of dollars on lead generation companies, trying to just get appointments. And in the Toronto area, I was literally like running around like crazy. One of the colleagues that I knew, because I actually started off with a franchise, said to me, the secret is you just got to have a lot of meetings. Like he said, you need to have like 10 to 20 meetings a week just to start off. And then the more you do, the better. So I went crazy. I tried to get as many meetings as possible. I spent thousands of dollars buying meetings. Do you have it where like you go there, you think you have a meeting, they don't show up. They tell you to get lost, right?
I think we can all sympathize with that. There's nothing worse than, being excited about having a meeting set up with a business owner, and you show up there and they're not there, or you sit there and wait an hour for them to come out for your meeting. It's just like, yeah.
It just ruins you just feel so dejected, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, why am I doing this? And then, I don't know about you two, but I was running myself ragged, just like trying to get from meeting to meeting to meeting 24/7, right? And just hoping to make a sale. So I don't know. I can't see if anybody are here in the comments, but if any of you feel this way, like let us know in the comments, because this is, how I thought life was like. And then I discovered from a gentleman named Marvin Email, who actually gave me my first thing of training. I discovered this magical process. And once I discovered this simple, easy system that I'm actually going to teach you called Tiger Tools, it changed my life. I am not kidding you. It took all those meetings that I was doing, and it actually enabled me to close at least 2 times to 5 times more than I was already doing, and not having to do more meetings. Because this is what he first told us. Have you ever guys heard that sales is a numbers game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because you just gotta, go see 100 people. You're gonna close one of them, right? He took that off the table. He's like, sales is not a numbers game, and every single one of you all of us here included, really should have a 1-to-1 closing ratio. And when I say 1-to-1, I mean when you're talking to a decision maker who has a need and has a budget, you should be able to close them no matter what. No matter if you have sales experience or not. I didn't have any sales experience. I was a lawyer. I was a litigation lawyer, but that didn't mean I knew how to close. My greatest stress was I'm never going to make partner because I have no idea how to bring in new clients. I'm socially awkward. I couldn't do any of this.
Yeah.
But what I learned was you can actually, if you understand what people's psychology is and you learn this simple system that we're going to teach you, it works every time. And one of the things that I learned too is that, you don't have I get migraines, you don't feel great every single day. I found that when I followed these simple steps, they just magically open the doors for me. So I thought what I would do is I would share with you guys 2 things that actually worked with this that you can think about, and I think that you can start to apply in your meetings today.
Awesome.
So first of all, I don't know, can we see the comments of people?
Yeah, we've got a couple comments so far. So Kurt Best says, in terms of having gone through the turmoil of not being able to close accounts or having people disrespect you on sales calls, he says he's been there before. And then he also said in terms of your 1-to-1 closing ratio, yes, I want that. So quite obviously, we all want that. And Liana's got the skills and techniques to help us get there. So which is really cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask everybody watching, and if you're watching later, participate as well, because that's really how that's one of the secrets. That's how you learn, is just by participating. How many in-person sales meetings do you have scheduled between now and the next week? What about you guys? Do you guys have any?
Yeah, we
actually,
do.
I have. I've got 3. So for the rest of this week, I've got at least 1 per day.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, David? Do you have any?
I've got 2 booked appointments and 1 tentative right now over the next week.
Okay.
So
I'm going to ask everybody right now, when you go in to see somebody for your sales appointment, what do you think is the first thing they think about when you walk through the door? What do they see when you walk through the door?
Can this person solve my problems?
Okay. Is that what most people think, you think?
I don't know.
They probably think, well, I'll take the cynical route. I'll say, this is a problem. How can I get through this?
Okay. Do they, when you walk through the door, are they thinking, hey, here's my buddy Drew? Or are they thinking, here's somebody who owns this agency trying to sell me something? What do you think most people think?
Probably the second.
Some comments here. James Fisher saying, how much will it cost?
So okay.
Price. Brandy saying, are they happy? Kurt Best is saying, what is this going to cost? Misty LeBoy saying, can I afford this? So it's a lot of people think it has to do with cost or how much it's going to.
Right. Why do you think their brain goes towards? Why do you think? How much is this going to cost immediately when you walk through the door? They're probably thinking, what is this going to cost me now, right? Why do you think that?
Because everybody else does it the same way. They're being pitched probably because of history and that's what they're used to. That's
right, because they know you're here to sell them something, right? So they see you here as a salesperson. So this is actually what happens in the general psychology. And I focus on psychology because it doesn't matter where in the world. As long as you're dealing with humans, it's going to be the same. When somebody sees somebody coming in and they think you're a salesperson, something inside you kicks off. It's called the fight or flight mode. So who here can tell us if you've heard of that before?
I've heard of that.
Let us know. Yeah? Okay, can you share with us what that means?
Let's see if anybody else raised their hands about it.
Yeah. Fight or flight mode. Maybe they can Google it really quick.
Yeah. So I think in terms of flight or fight is you're either prepared to put up a defense and engage with that person, either to defend your turf or you're going to run away from the problem.
Yep. It's this natural instinct that overcomes us when we think there's danger. We're either going to fight it off or we're going to run away. And what actually physically happens is, I'm not a doctor, but what I hear happens is the blood actually starts to drain from your head. So if you see anybody's really stressed, sometimes you see people walking around and they're like rubbing their heads or their temples. It's just, you do that naturally, right? You're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Your body's actually trying to get more blood flow back up to your brain, because it's gone to the rest of your body to get into that fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
So when they see a salesperson walk in the door, which is you, in each of your 3 meetings, let's not kid ourselves. They all think you're a salesperson walking in that door, okay? They're in fight or flight mode. And this is so key, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in depth when we have more time. But when what the blood rushes from your brain, what also actually happens is it affects your hearing. It doesn't affect your physical hearing, but it affects what your brain is able to take in, and you're in fact deaf. So one of the biggest aha moments I ever had, which really switched things around to drastically improve my sales conversions, is realizing that almost everybody I'm talking to every day at a sales meeting is deaf. You can come in, you can have the most amazing solution in the world at rock bottom prices. If they're in fight or flight mode, they're not hearing anything that's coming out of your head. Your mouth, sorry. So if you're talking to deaf people all day long at your sales meetings, how effective do you think you are?
Not very effective.
Not very effective. That is, I never really thought of it that way. That is really tremendous insight, combined with a lot of people's fear. I mean, their own fear in actually approaching the sales process of actually prospecting. That's really a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody who's watching ever felt the feeling that they're speaking to a prospect and they're not really hearing what you're saying? I think we can all attest to going through that.
Well, I'm married, and I know that when often I talk to my wife, she hears absolutely, or maybe is it the other way around? I hear nothing that she's saying, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what she's going to say. Yeah. What about the finances? What about the kids? You got to go take them somewhere. I get it. I'm joking if my wife is watching this. I love you, babe, and I never call her babe, so you can tell that she's not watching this. Yeah. I've experienced that a lot.
Yeah. And actually, it's not totally your fault, Drew. I will just give a tip for the women watching. Did you know that men actually have difficulty hearing the higher registers? So if you're a woman and you are actually selling to men, or you're even speaking and there's men there, I actually try and coach people to lower their voice, especially if you're doing cold calling. Because if you talk and you're talking this really high voice, 2 things: you don't sound like an authority, and number 2 is just men just can't really hear that up there. So it's mostly their fault, but some of it isn't. So, but like, try that.
I'll tell my wife that when she's got
lower your voice in there. Yeah. That's probably why most of us aren't closing as fast as we want, because we're talking to deaf people. Some of us eventually get through because you're like there for the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th time, right. And by that time they might have figured it out. But what I found is the solution to this is being able to develop rapport with the person. So who here can tell us, what the definition of rapport is?
The actual definition of rapport.
Or what does it mean to you when you hear the word rapport?
To me, it just means making friends in the simplest fashion.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You have guys ever watched Grey's Anatomy?
Long time ago,
right? So I'm rewatching it on Netflix. And something that Meredith and Christine always talk about is they say, "You're my person," right?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean when they say, "You're my person"?
They're connected.
Mm-hmm.
We're connected.
Mm-hmm. You get me, right?
You get me.
I can come to you, and they listen to each other. So now, everybody, I'm not going to leave you in despair. We're talking to deaf people all day long. I want you to imagine what it would be like if all of the sales meetings, like these 2 guys here, you've got a couple of sales meetings coming up.
Mm-hmm.
How successful do you think you would be if in every single sales meeting, that person listened to you as if they were your person and you were their person?
It makes the biggest difference. And I just know that from clients that I have now who I've built rapport with and I've built that relationship with, that, a lot of times they'll call me when someone else has approached them with like a different sort of marketing product or, a different approach for some way that they can promote their company. And they'll call, it may not have anything to do with me or something that I sell, but they just want my advice because I'm their trusted person who they go to when they have a question about something. So it makes the biggest difference in the world.
Yep. And that's the key to turning whatever your sales conversion rate is right now into getting closer to that one-on-one closing ratio. And what we don't have a ton of time today. And I know David and Drew, like you've set aside time for us to do this in more depth. I think next week.
Yep.
But once you're able to develop that, and I have a process to do that every single time, then you're going to be able to, like, I've seen people at least double their sales with this. So what I'll do is, like, do we have time? And I don't know if people on the call have time. I can leave you with one tip that you can actually use in your sales meetings in case you have any meetings before now and the time when we have like more time next week to go over this.
We have time.
Yeah, we have time.
Absolutely.
We have time.
Yeah.
Do people want to hear this?
Oh, I know they do.
Nobody wants to hear that, Liana.
No? Okay, let's just end.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
just no.
Okay.
I want to hear it. You're not going
Okay.
anywhere.
Go for
Here's
it.
the thing, and it's not going to sound earth-shattering, but one of the things you can do is, well, let me start this by asking you a question, because I'm all about interaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the greatest sickness or ailment that most of humanity suffers from?
I'm stumped. It's going to be very obvious once you say it, I know.
What do people think in the comments?
I think it's a lack of confidence.
Okay. Nominates. That's a good one. Drew, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm leaning towards medical, and since I've got that medical background, I'm trying to think statistically what people suffer from, from a physical or disease type of process. But I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to say attention. I don't know. I'll just go throw that out there. You suffer from lack of attention.
So Brandy says low self-esteem. Sean Fitzgerald says fear.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
Misty LaBoy says lack of belief, which is kind of a self-confidence, kind of the same thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You guys are all right, because, when we look in the mirror, what's the first thing we see? Oh, I don't like this about me, right? I wish I could change this. We always go to the negative. The biggest ailment or sickness that afflicts humankind is that self-esteem, that confidence.
Right.
So one of the tools to develop rapport is to address that with people. And the way you do that, it's really simple. It's free. There's an unlimited supply of it, and you can use it anytime. It's giving a compliment. When you give somebody a compliment, even if you don't close the sale right then and there, think of it this way. You're actually helping to heal that ailment that they have. Maybe you're helping to make their day better. But if you give a compliment, what's interesting is I used to teach that it has to be genuine, but we've actually found that even if it's not genuine, just those words even make people feel better. So let's try this right now. David, give Drew a compliment.
Don't mention my hair or their lack of.
Drew, I still love you even though you have no hair.
Oh, there you go. That's kind of a backhanded compliment. I'll take it.
But look at this. We did this in jest, right? He's smiling.
Yeah.
Okay. He's actually looks a little bit more open. Okay. Once you give somebody a compliment, something magical happens. Their barriers kind of go down a little bit, and they become more open, which means they become less what? What did I say earlier people are when you're talking to them?
Deaf.
Deaf. right? Because you're lowering some of that barrier. They start to see you as a human rather than the salesperson trying to sell me something and how much is this going to cost? How can I get them out the door?
Right.
Liana, you are a Jedi. You are seriously an evil master genius. I cannot wait to get you on this call next week. This is for all of you that are watching this. I don't know if you just experienced the same thing that I have, but a light bulb just went off in my head and has completely lowered my any anticipation of fear of approaching people now. Now I've got this secret weapon that is invisible. It is literally a dark side of the force weapon that I can use, not use in an evil way, but obviously it's not something that costs anything.
It's
you can
so
just simply be.
too. It's just very, very. Anybody can do this. There's nothing.
I love you. This is that's just amazing. It's like all my stress just kind of went away for the next couple of days of going out and doing client meetings and stuff like that. Just completely slipped away. That is such an amazing little hack. I love it.
Hopefully,
Awesome.
everybody who's watching sees value in that. I know I do. It's a very, very simple thing, and it not only applies to doing sales calls, but just in everyday life too. I mean, giving more compliments and making people feel better about themselves is something that we should all do. Love that. Yeah.
So I know our time is really short today, and there's actually a couple more tools that round out this whole toolkit that I'd love to share with all of you, because when you use them all together, you're like literally unstoppable. So I don't know if people are interested. I mean, I'd be more than happy to share it with your tribe. And I know we've set aside some time next week to do this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, we scheduled a live workshop with Liana, and she's going to take us through a bunch of this stuff on a live call. And there is a link in the post above, and I'll also put it in the first comment here. Click on that. It's going to actually trigger a bot, and all you have to do in the bot is just tap on your email address, and you'll instantly be registered for the workshop. So it's simple. You don't even have to type your email address in, but get registered. It's going to be awesome. I mean, if there's look at what she's just shared with us in the past 22 minutes. Imagine what she's going to drop on us on that call. So it's free. There's no cost. It's just pure value for you guys, and you're going to absolutely love what she can share. And we've seen a good chunk of her presentation, like Drew was saying, in Nashville when we were down with Mastermind with her, and it's really mind-blowing.
It's really invaluable. And listen, if you like exactly what you just heard from Liana, I mean, it seems so subtle. It's completely free to use, and it positions you in such a way that you're really going to lower the barriers and be able to develop simple relationships with some folks. This may be intuitive for some folks, but then again, for those of you who are struggling, this is just a tip of the iceberg. So go ahead and register for this, and do yourself a favor. I think this would be a really cool way to provide value to other people.
Yeah.
Invite other people into this, because if you're going to benefit from it, giving a free tool away like this, just a simple frame of mind and some tactics that you can help other people, either in their personal relationships, in their professional relationships, through sales, marketing, anything like that. If something like this could help them, please go ahead and share this. This is, Liana benefits from this by, being able to share herself and the skills and tactics that she's perfected, and it's helping this group grow. So that would be a personal favor to me if you helped other people by inviting them into that. We're not looking for anything from this. Again, this is free, and it's just our way of saying thank you to Liana for sharing her time, her energy, and her expertise with this. I know that I enjoyed it down in Nashville. I wish I had a heck of a lot more time to go through even more of it. And we're all the benefactors of Liana sharing her time with us next week.
Yeah,
please go ahead and register.
When we were down in Nashville, as soon as Liana finished her presentation, Drew and I looked at each other and we're like, we have to have Liana on to do this for our folks in Delicious. So definitely register. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing this again and refreshing and sharpening my skills for 2019. And this is a great time of year to do this, starting the year off.
Mhm.
And just everyone's always looking for self-improvement and pushing themselves forward in the new year, and our minds are kind of set in that mode right now. So this is a great time of year to learn some skills that Liana is going to teach us on that live call. So definitely register, and we look forward to hanging out with you on, I think it's
Awesome.
next Wednesday, January 9th at 8 p.m.
Yep. Okay,
So,
great.
thank you,
Liana,
Awesome.
thanks so much for
Thank
hanging out with us.
you.
You are the best. Thanks so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You guys are awesome. See you
Yep.
guys all next week.
See you then. Thanks, Liana.
Bye.
Bye-bye.